Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the FantasyPros Football Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Harris. You can find me on Twitter at DanHarris80. It is Friday. We're going to be going through each of this weekend's games with Kyle Yates. But first, as we always do, let's start with Dr. David Chao, future Scott Fishbowl champion. You can find him on Twitter at ProFootballDoc and his great website, ProFootballDoc.com. Dr. Chao, thanks for joining us, as always.
That's quite a stretch.
I mean, you're dominating. What were you, 10-2? I don't even know what you were. 10-2.
Yeah, I was a very lucky 10-2. Yes, I have a first round bye because of the record in the Dinosaur Toys division. But first of all, I did lose to Stefania Bell, who's in the division, and and 6 of my top 11 draft picks all got injured. But Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and then Aaron Rodgers carried me. And there was someone put out, I forget who it was, I wish I could credit him, like, who got the luckiest? And
oh, yeah.
And I was.
Were you up there?
Oh, I was up there. I mean, I was, I'd like to think I drafted a really good defense, but as you know, there was no defense being drafted, so my opponents were basically kind to me. So I call it beginner's luck, right?
All right. Well, take it.
I'll take it, but it's beginner's luck. Come on.
As someone who's dealing with a lot of injuries on his own team and made the playoffs, but has to find a way to win this week, I would much rather be lucky in 10-2 and take my bye. But let's get into this weekend. For those of us who have to play, it's a big weekend. Scott Fishbowl, you've got the playoffs, but most leagues, this is the last week before the playoffs. So let's talk about some key injury concerns. Let's start with Daniel Jones. Now, he's doubtful for this weekend, so we can assume that he's not going to play. But based on what you saw, I had the weird thing where he left. He came back in for, I think, a play and then left with a hamstring injury. So do you think that he's going to be able to suit up next week and going forward?
Very iffy. And this is what we said in game. And the analysis is really this simple. No question, it's hard to tell the severity of a hamstring. No question Daniel Jones is a gamer and he wants to play for his now NFC East leading Giants and lead them. So he came back into the game probably with the idea of being a pocket quarterback. No giraffe-like runs down the field, so to speak. But he came in one play, threw the ball, and it was his right hamstring, and he couldn't really plant and push off on the throw and then took himself out. So to me, they may say all they want that the MRI is not significant, but there's something at least moderate, if not significant, there because he couldn't even throw. Look at RG3 from the Wednesday game. He pulled his hamstring late in the first half, stayed in the game, limited his runs, still ran a little bit, but still could throw some. Daniel Jones couldn't even throw the ball. This is where I said it may be week 16 before he's back to himself. And I thought for sure he was not playing at least this week. And it could go beyond because of the fact that he couldn't throw with it. So it's at least a fairly reasonable hamstring strain.
All right. So how about Josh Jacobs? Now, by the time people are listening to this, he may be declared out. We have not seen yet the Friday practice reports, but he had the ankle injury late in that game that was a blowout. He looked like he was in a ton of pain, but then it came out that it was an ankle sprain. I don't know, high or mid, hopefully, but he hadn't practiced up to this point of this week. So, how do you view him? Do you think he's going to be able to suit up this week if he's declared out? Do you think it's a long-term thing or he'll be able to come back next week?
Well, call a spade a spade. In-game looking at video, I thought he was more out due to the lopsided score in the fourth quarter as opposed to injury. But so I thought he would go this week. But the fact that as of the Wednesday and Thursday practice, he's been a DNP, that certainly casts a lot of doubt. We'll see what the report Friday was. And we'll have to see, but you got to keep an eye on this one. Obviously, I may have misled some people because I thought he would be okay. So I'm still hopeful if he doesn't play this week that it will be relatively short term.
All right. How about Julio Jones here? He had the weird thing. He was, he's obviously dealing with a hamstring. He had the missed practice, or he came back to practice limited on Wednesday. Then he missed practice on Thursday. Then he practiced apparently today, and they said that he looked pretty good. I mean, I know these types of injuries are always a little dicey. Julio's as tough as they come. So what do you think about his chances of suiting up this weekend?
Well, I think it's been multiple weeks since Julio's been 100% or anything close to it, right? The majority of the season. So if you go by that, I mean, he seems to be a guy look, 85% of Julio Jones is pretty good, right? So he seems to be a guy who's going to try and play, although he did miss last week. So it becomes something to watch here. Reading the tea leaves, I think it's going to be another week of Julio Jones suiting up and playing and doing all right, but less than 100%.
All right. How about Dalvin Cook? I mean, basically every game he seems to leave with something very, small. Sometimes he comes back in. This one was an ankle injury. Then you just have the word that he's just, quote, a little banged up. He's been getting a ton of touches. What do you think about, he sounds like he's certainly going to play this weekend against Jacksonville, but do you think he's going to be effective and be able to handle his full workload?
Well, Dalvin Cook is as tough as they come, and I think he gets a bad rap because of some of the injuries that he's had. He is beat up, and I don't think the ankle sprain will keep him out. If the Vikings get up, they may start to rest him. I think he may have a more of a split in his carries and load than usual, but there's no doubt that he's going to play. And remember, he's still going for the league rushing title, so I think he's going to be out there and productive.
All right. How about Tua Tagovailoa here? You've got this weird thing where he's got the thumb and then he missed last game, and some people thought maybe it was performance-based and that the Dolphins actually wanted Fitzpatrick in there, but who knows? And Brian, coach is not going to name a starter until Sunday morning. So do you think that Tua is going to be able to suit up here with the thumb? And if he is, do you think he'll be able to be effective?
Do I think Tua would be able to suit up? Yes. Do I think Tua is going to suit up? No. I think my Harvard guy, Ryan Fitzpatrick, will be the starter again for several reasons. First and foremost, the Dolphins are in it, right? And would you rather have 100% Tua 100% Fitz or 90% Tua, right? And look at how they put in Tua. They put him in the 8th week because the Dolphins' bye got moved up because of the COVID schedule shenanigans, to give Tua 2 full weeks of starter reps before they started his first game. Is this, being a rookie quarterback, is this the picture of a team and a player that will get a start after not really practicing fully all week long? Right. Obviously, the answer is no. I think it's very clear in my mind that Fitz will be the starter. Not that Tua has this really serious injury, but any injury to a throwing quarterback's thumb, the grip, it affects your action and spin. And I think in an emergency situation, there's no question Tua could play in my mind, but I don't think the Dolphins are going to start a rookie quarterback that hasn't had full snaps in the week of preparation.
Well, for fantasy purposes, people who want to start Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki, they're probably hoping that Tua doesn't suit up because it does seem like Fitzpatrick is better than their fantasy fortune. So they may not know officially until Sunday morning, but if you're right, hopefully that's a good thing for them. How about Zach Ertz? It sounds like he might actually, I know he's been designated to return, sounds like he might suit up this weekend. Do we expect him to suit up? And if so, how effective do you think he can be after this long layoff?
I do expect him to suit up because remember last year, Zach Ertz missed only 1 game with a lacerated kidney. And that's like a record return. And apparently he was lobbying to play and not even miss that 1 week. So Zach Ertz is going to get on the field as soon as he can. A significant high ankle sprain, including an avulsion fracture, I think he will be on the field. But I don't think if you had the choice between Goddard and Ertz, Goddard might get more of the touches, right? He's on more of a roll, and he's the healthier guy right now, at least for this week 13.
Yeah. Okay, let's leave with this. Somebody not for this week, but Christian McCaffrey's on a bye. Everybody's kind of been waiting for him. Do you think he's going to be back after the bye?
As strongly as I've been anti-Christian McCaffrey, not anti the player, but saying that he wasn't going to play. I'm going to go that strongly and more. Week 14, 100%. He's going to get his usual touches, high 20s into the 30s. They're going to use him week 14, just like they used him the first day back after the high ankle sprain in whatever week that was. Full confidence in McCaffrey next week.
Well, that's awesome. So for Christian McCaffrey owners who managed to make it to the playoffs, congratulations. Looks like you'll be rewarded. Doc, thank you so much for fitting us in as always on Friday. Remind everybody where they can find you and your work.
ProFootballDoc.com. If you use the search feature, there's an easy way for you to find out about every player that you are wondering about.
I can talk about that from experience. I use it every week. You can search for any player. You can find out the latest notes. It is invaluable. All right, so we're going to be back in a second here, breaking down every game with Dan and Kyle in the morning. All right, guys, it's time for Dan and Kyle in the morning. What's up, Yates? How are you today?
I'm doing great, man. I wanted to talk about this before we get into the content today. We've been getting a bunch of the Spotify Wrapped and people sending in screenshots and all that, and it's been fantastic. I had to shout out Juan Sosa. He tagged us in this the other day. He listened to 143 episodes of the podcast in 2020 for a total of 8,165 minutes. That's insane. That's just so humbling. I just had to talk about this really quick because this is so humbling for us to have people this dedicated to listening to us, to listening to our advice. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's been sending in those screenshots, who takes time to listen to the podcast. It's just incredibly humbling.
Yeah, it really is awesome. And again, this is really, it's your first year at all with the company. You were just a guest, prior to this year.
Yep.
And it's my first full-time year, obviously, with the company. And you and I were both, on the podcast a ton. We had our own episodes. And, you really grow to appreciate the listeners who interact with us so much on Twitter and ask questions and comment when we tease each other and comment when we, have a funny moment and things like that. It's been really great. So, yeah, it's been cool to see those things pop up and everybody sort of show how much they've been listening. And it's great. We really appreciate it. It's why we do it. It's why we're going to continue to do it. It's why we bumped up the schedule this year. So for everybody who's listened this year, thank you. We hope you have made your playoffs or are on the verge of making your playoffs, and stick with us through the end of the season because we will definitely take you home. All right, you guys know the drill here. Yates and I are going to be going through each and every game. Yates, 15 games, okay? We've got 15 games this weekend, so we're going to have to move at lightning speed. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, good. Before we do, let's talk about our December giveaway, which is a James Robinson autographed helmet. So here's the deal. We still don't have the winner of the November giveaway. I could explain the process to you. It's just sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. We are working on it, so we have not yet gotten the winner of the November giveaway. We are still going to get it. But again, to enter the review for the December giveaway, I will get you the November winner. Go to just leave a review for the show on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, and then go to fantasypros.com/contest to submit that review. Again, that's all you need to do. James Robinson, he's been awesome. Signed helmet. Go get it. All right, Yates, you know how we start off here. We start off with the accuracy challenge. And guys, if you haven't played it yet, fantasypros.com/challenge, completely free to play. It is 10 fantasy point over-unders. There are weekly prizes. There's a season-long prize if you have been playing all year, grand prize. For this free contest is a 3-day, 2-night stay at an MGM resort property in Las Vegas. It is sponsored by BetMGM and includes round-trip airfare. Again, fantasypros.com/challenge. Ready, Yates?
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes against Denver.
Over.
23.
Over. Whatever it is, over.
90 fantasy points, Yates.
That one's a little bit more. No.
All right, it's 23.2. I am also taking the over as well. Taysom Hill against Atlanta, 18.3 fantasy points.
I think he's going to have to continue to find the end zone a couple times to hit that. That's an aggressive line for Taysom Hill. I'll take the under slightly.
I'm still going over. I mean, if they're going to find the end zone, I think it's mostly going to be with Taysom Hill and not necessarily with our next guy, Alvin Kamara, also against Atlanta, 13.8 fantasy points.
Oh, man. I'm going to take...
I got to go under, Yates.
I got to take the under.
I got to go under. I mean, it's terrible. As somebody who rosters Alvin Kamara in several leagues, I just have no faith right now that this is what's going to get any better as long as Taysom Hill is in there. How about Chris Carson against the Giants, 13.1 fantasy points?
There's no guarantee what his workload's going to be. We saw that last week with Carlos Hyde out touching him. I'll take the under here. He's going to have to find the end zone to hit that mark.
I'm going to take the over. I saw Carlos Hyde did not practice, at least on Thursday, so if he does miss this game, that would be a little better for him, but it narrowly over for me. How about Clyde Edwards-Helaire against Denver, 11.9?
Man, another situation where we just have no guarantee. I'll take the under.
Oddly enough, I haven't projected for over, but it's barely over, and so I'll go over. That's how I'll say it, because I need to really go back and reassess. Devontae Adams against Philadelphia, 17.7.
Aggressive line, but I'll still take the over.
I will as well. Keenan Allen against New England, 14.5.
I'll take the over.
I'm going to take the under here. I feel like they're going to try to find a way to take them away as best they can. Tyler Lockett against the Giants, 13.2.
Oh, man. Talk about a boom-bust player.
Yeah.
I will take... Oh, man. I'll take the under.
The best part is I'm going under 2. It's probably not going to be close. It's probably either going to be like
Yep.
2 fantasy points or 25. A.J. Brown against Cleveland, 13.
Over.
Way
Smash
over.
spot.
Stop. If you are mentioning A.J. Brown, it is over. Evan Ingram, final one against Seattle, 8.9.
This would be a smash spot for him if Daniel Jones was a quarterback with Colt McCoy. I have no clue. I'll still take the over because I think they're just going to try to funnel him the ball, but I'm not confident in that one.
I'm going to go with the under because Colt McCoy. If Daniel Jones does play, which, by the way, apparently he's going to try to practice today, and we'll see, but I'm assuming it's Colt McCoy, in which case I will take the under. Okay, as you guys know, it is Friday morning. We don't have the final practice reports. My usual caveat, I will try to make sure we have options. Saints at Falcons. We talked about Alvin Kamara, but you are still starting him here, right?
Yeah, as a low-end running back 1, just with his ability to find the end zone. If he gets 1 or 2 targets, he can take one to the house. So you still start Alvin Kamara. I've gotten that question a lot this week, but yeah, you still start him.
Yeah, I've got him 12th, though, to be clear. Like, this is one where I'm, all right, I'm starting Alvin Kamara, of course, but I'm worried about it. How about Latavius Murray? We talked about him a little bit on Wednesday. You're good to start him here, right?
As a high-end running back 3, so it's a little bit more of a difficult decision if I've got some of those fringe guys. But looking at Latavius Murray and the opportunity, I think I don't want to overreact too much to last week, where they literally only threw the ball 16 times and ran it 44 total times. Like, that's just not going to happen in this game, right? There's still going to be a heavy run team, and Latavius Murray should see the majority of the carries, but I'm not willing to go so far as to say he's going to find the end zone 1 or maybe even 2 times like he did last week. So he's a high-end running back 3. You can plug him in if you're in need, but otherwise I think there are better options.
Very, very good point. You can really throw out what happened last week because it's just not a normal game. But I agree. He's my RB33 right now in my initial projections. So he's somebody who you can start as a flex, and which I'm going to have to in the Scott Fishbowl, my friend, as you and I are going to battle out in the playoffs there. How about Taysom Hill here? Are you willing to start him as a QB1?
Yeah, as a QB1, low-end QB1. He's got to find the end zone because of his – it's kind of the same situation as Cam Newton, right? Like, as far as the passing volume, it's just not going to be there. So you need him to find the end zone as a runner for that to deliver that upside. I just don't feel comfortable betting on that as a top 5 option. But, yeah, you're absolutely still starting him as a low-end QB1.
Yeah, I've got him 10 right now, so I think you are starting him for the most part. Let me give you a name here just so we could see whether or not you'll start Taysom Hill. How about would you start Taysom Hill or Ben Roethlisberger against Washington?
That's a good question. I think I would go Hill there. I've got Roethlisberger just outside my top 12 quarterbacks.
Yep, that's exactly where I'm at. I mean, he's 11 for me, but he's behind Hill on that one. And you're starting Michael Thomas. Obviously, he gets the nod here going forward, I assume. But anybody else that you want to start on the Saints?
No, not on the Saints. Michael Thomas you can fire up as a low-end wide receiver 1. But otherwise, yeah, just stay far away from this offense.
I've got him a little lower for now, but my guess is that he's going to bounce up to a high-end wide receiver 2. So with the Falcons, this is very tough to analyze because, again, Julio and Gurley returned limited practice, I believe, on Wednesday. Then they missed practice entirely on Thursday. So if Julio Jones plays, you just play him, right? I mean, like, unless you know that he's going to be a decoy, you pretty much have to play him.
Yeah, as a low-end wide receiver, too. That's a tough situation, especially in such a crucial week for a lot of fantasy managers in Week 13. Yeah. It's going to determine playoff seeding. It's going to determine whether you even get into the playoffs. So, yeah, I don't know if I would feel super comfortable plugging in Julio, but depending on your other options, you might have to.
Yeah, he'll probably land in like the 20s in my rankings, right? It'll sort of be something where I'll hedge and say I'll probably start him, but I won't feel great about it. We don't know about Gurley. If Gurley plays, do you start him? If he doesn't, do you start Brian Hill?
No. I mean, I'm not starting Brian Hill. Ito Smith would probably be the one that I would look at because he brings a safer floor with his work in the receiving game. I mean, 5 targets last week. So I think that, especially in a game that they were out in front from the beginning. So I think Ito Smith, you can roll in kind of in that same territory as Latavius Murray, but outside of that, I just would prefer to stay away from this backfield.
Yeah, I don't want to go near it if I can help it, regardless of who's there. I would start Hill over Smith if Gurley is out, mainly just because I realized that Smith had the better game and he wasn't on the passing game. But again, it was just kind of a weird game. It looked like to me that Hill was the guy that they were going to rely on when the game got out of hand a little bit. They went to Smith a little more. So I'd probably have Hill a little higher, but it's not a matchup that I really want to go near. How about Matt Ryan? Does it matter to you if Julio Jones plays, or are you staying away?
No, you stay away.
And Hayden Hurst at this point in the quote-unquote circle of trust in the sense that you start him pretty much every week?
Yeah. I've got him as a low-end tight end 1 this week with Julio out. You're going to be looking to send the ball somewhere, and Hayden Hurst has been super involved. So, yeah, I think you can plug him into your lineup.
Ball's got to go somewhere. Of course, it is going to go to Calvin Ridley. If Julio Jones is out, any other wide receiver you want to start here or move on?
No, they're all dart throws.
This is correct. Lions at the Bears at the Tigers. Oh, my. Swift, I don't know what the deal is with DeAndre Swift. So originally it was like, oh no, COVID, concussion concerns, the quote from Adrian Peterson. Then it said, oh no, he missed practice because of an illness. He's past the concussion protocol. So we don't really know. Let's assume he starts for the moment. Are you starting him against the Bears if he's a start?
I have concerns. I mean, with Adrian Peterson's quote of like he just doesn't look the same, or I forget exactly what he said, but it was something to that extent. It's like that's concerning, and especially in a crucial week. So I think DeAndre Swift, if he sees the type of workload that he did that first week that he took over the backfield, then it's like, yeah, you fire him up as a high-end running back 2 in this matchup. But yet with the concerns, I think he's still someone that you can look at, but he's probably going to be around like 18, 19, 20 in my running back rankings. So he's not like sure thing.
That's exactly what I'm thinking as well. He's a guy who, if you roster him, you are probably going to start him, but there are, additional question marks that there weren't before. So I think he's going to fall in the high teams if he's a go. If he does not go, do you want to start either Adrian Peterson or Kerryon Johnson?
No, not after they burned me last time.
What they did well against the Texans. At least.
What was the game before that?
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yes.
Yeah, that's a situation. It's too unpredictable. This offense, we have no idea what it's going to look like. It hasn't looked great the past couple of weeks. Did they bounce back after their first week of, being rid of Matt Patricia? Like, what does this? There's a wide range of outcomes here with this Lions offense. I would just prefer to stay away if I can.
Okay, and you are starting TJ Hawkinson because we start him now every week. Circle of trust. Are you starting any other line with Kenny Golladay almost certainly out in this game?
Well, first off, what the heck's going on with Kenny Golladay?
When it first came out, man, it did not sound good. When you first immediately get injured, it's like he's got a hip and it's week to week, and then you just don't hear anything about it. I don't know.
I'm shocked they didn't put him on IR.
I know, but man, they don't look at Mixon, right? Mixon was out for 5 weeks, and they were like, "Oh man, maybe we should put you on IR." As opposed to the Texans, who are like, "David Johnson got a concussion immediately. We're just going to sideline you for 3 weeks." I don't know, man. I get it. Maybe it's more serious, but he's not practicing this week, so I'm sure he's been declared out by the time people are listening to this.
Marvin Jones can be plugged in. It's more so to do with the wide receiver ranking. I don't know about you, but looking at my wide receiver rankings this week, I'm like, this looks gross. And we only have 2 teams on bye, but when you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers on bye, where you have Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and then Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, that takes a significant hit to your wide receiver rankings. Yeah. So I think you still can look at Marvin Jones based on the other options that you have available, but he's more so a mid-range wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I've got him just outside there, 38, but that's a guy you can start for the most part. But man, it is ugly. You are correct. This is not a. I'm looking once you get past 24, I'm like, no, I don't want any of this. All right, so let's go to the Bears here. Allen Robinson, Dave Montgomery. We talked a little bit about both on the Start Sit show. Both are great starts this week. And Mitchell Trubisky is a sleeper if you in one of these leagues, right? I mean, you had him 15th, I believe, on Wednesday?
Yep.
And I'm 16th.
Yeah, it's where I've got him. So I think you look at his history up against the Lions. I mean, he has just destroyed this defense every single time he's played them. And you're looking at Jeffrey Okudah likely not going to play in this game and Desmond Trufant on IR. So you're looking at a huge mismatch here for these wide receivers. So I think Trubisky's a solid option.
Do you want to start any of the other wide receivers then in light of the injuries?
No, they're kind of in that same territory of what I said with the Atlanta Falcons wide receivers. They're all dart throws. You can't trust them. Miller would be the one that I would probably Miller would probably be the one that I would go with just above Mooney, but again, they're flex plays at best.
And I think we probably should put this. I mean, I have Dave Montgomery as my 7th ranked running back this week. Are you that high on him as well?
Let me pull that. He's in that range. Let me pull it up.
Okay,
for sure. He's at 9. He's at 9 for me, but I think he'll move up by the time. I mean, I did my projections this morning, and he came up very, very high. He came up with a very high projection total. So, I mean, all indications are that he's going to go off in this game.
I don't apologize. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy. Okay, Browns at Titans. You were always starting Nick Chubb. We were down on Kareem Hunt on Wednesday. Are we still down on him?
Yeah, I'm sitting Kareem Hunt if I can, but again, based on the other options, you likely can't. So I've got him at 20 right now. I would play someone like Kenyon Drake over him, Jonathan Taylor for sure. Zeke's the tough one there. It's like, okay, do I play Zeke up against Baltimore or do I play Kareem Hunt up against Tennessee? I'd prefer to play neither, but
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, if it's going to be tough, hopefully we have word on whether or not, the run stuffers for Baltimore are going to be back at that point, because that's a Tuesday game. So we're going to do, I have Hunt at 22. I mean, the 22nd ranked running backs in my rankings is almost certainly someone that you're starting weekly.
Right.
But it is, Tags has been talking about this for a while, that Kareem Hunt really has not produced, and he's kind of lived off the beginning of the season where he was really, really good. But he's kind of been a disappointment since then. So he is 22, but it is something where I'm not running out of my way to start him. I am starting Jarvis Landry this week, though. I have him at 25. Where do you have Landry this week?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head, but he's definitely in the starting conversation for me. I'm 11 targets last week. And that was someone on Twitter brought up this point, and I forget who it was, otherwise I would credit. But the past two games, or the two games where Landry disappointed, were weird weather games, right? There was no predictability to that whatsoever. So you now see a phenomenal matchup here. I think this is just going to be the Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry show. Which team gets out front first, and they're just going to run the ball. So it's going to be interesting to see what's left over for Jarvis Landry. But yeah, based on the wide receiver position, you start him.
Yeah, no, I that's what I'm saying. Once you get past 24, it's like, okay, now I'm nervous. So
I've got him at 24.
Okay, yeah, I got him at 25, so we're right there. How about Hooper? All right, I mean, I have trouble sort of analyzing how I feel about Austin Hooper each week, because I feel like he could easily sort of get himself in the circle of trust if Baker Mayfield stopped missing him on wide open end zone throws, but there is that. So I'm 16th right now. Where do you have him?
I have him at 13. So yeah, you can absolutely look his way.
Okay. For the Titans, so much Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown, as we know. How about Corey Davis? He's one spot for me ahead of Jarvis Landry at 24.
He's one spot below Jarvis Landry for me at 25.
You got to rethink that. All right, so we are right there on both those two guys, which is great. And how about Tannehill? I mean, Tannehill's a guy who I kind of just start at this point, and I don't think too much about, especially in a decent matchup, as he's basically got for the rest of the season.
Oh, yeah. I've got Tannehill all the way up at 4 this week.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. That might come down by the time we get to Sunday, but looking at this matchup and looking at what Mike Glennon was able to do to them last week, I mean, A.J. Brown should just have a monstrous game, and if that's the case, then I want Ryan Tannehill, the one who's throwing him the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I've got him at 8, so it's not crazy, but that I like being aggressive. I have to ask this, Yates. What are we doing with Jonnu Smith this week? I'm
sitting him if I can. Pains me, but I've got him at 16 this week. So I mean, he's still in the streaming conversation. We say this every week that the guys from 5 to 15 to 16 to whatever. You can really just plug in any of those guys because the tight end position this year is so gross outside of Travis Kelce. But I mean, yeah, so you can still look his way. You're just hoping that he finds the end zone.
Yeah, and Cleveland does allow a ton of touchdowns.
They do. It's so frustrating because you can look at the matchup, you can analyze it, and you can say, okay, he should have a good game this week, but that's just no guarantee.
I know. I've got him at 13. It is worth noting that he did miss practice at least on Thursday, so we have to check on his status, of course. But, he's 13 for me. Again, there's nobody I feel comfortable with, really, once you're at that range. So, given what he has been able to do for much of the season, I might roll him out there, but he does technically fall outside my startable range. Let's go to the Bengals at the Dolphins. Look, this is very tough because Brian Flores has said that he will tell us who his starting quarterback is on Sunday morning, and it has a great impact on what you're doing, at least for me. So let's say it's Tua and not Fitzpatrick. Are you starting any pass catchers? Forget about the running backs for a second. If it's Tua, are you starting any pass catchers in this game for the Dolphins?
Again, if we're talking about Marvin Jones as someone that you can roll into your lineup based on the wide receiver position, then you should still be looking at Devontae Parker, but not super excited about it.
Yeah, it definitely takes the shine off for sure. What about Gesicki? Because Gesicki is somebody who I right now have in my top 12. He's at 9 under the assumption that Ryan Fitzpatrick starts.
Yeah, I've got him at 10 right now with the assumption that Ryan Fitzpatrick starts. If Tua is playing, then I'm probably going to bump him down outside my top 12.
I agree. That's exactly how I'm playing it. And how if Fitzpatrick does play, do you want to start Fitzpatrick as a potential streamer against Cincinnati?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's in that streaming conversation. He'll probably land inside my top 12 quarterbacks. He's just outside of that right now because, again, we just don't have any. I went to write up this game and do my projections this morning, and I just wanted to put the shrug emoji in because
I feel bad for you in tags when you do the game by game sort of stuff because I know you start the process early in the week and sort of you get into it and you have games like this where legitimately the coach is like, I will tell you what is happening that will greatly impact how you feel about this game from a fantasy perspective on Sunday morning. It's just not fair.
Well, and it's that, but then it's also, and we'll talk. This could be a transition here for you, Dan. Talking about the running backs, I don't even know who the heck's going to play. We just have no idea.
It. What do we do? What do we even do with this right now? What do you? Okay. Let's assume both Myles Gaskin and Savon Ahmed are active. What do you do then?
If that's the case, then I'm looking at Gaskin as a low-end running back 2, and then Savon Ahmed as a low-end running back 3. I don't think you can really look his way at that point. I just have questions. What does this backfield look like if both of these guys are healthy? Has Ahmed performed well enough to be able to, carve out a role for himself? Was Gaskin's heavy workload in the beginning of the season due to the fact that they had Jordan Howard as their second or third running back, right? So, all right. Yeah. Is that the case? Do we see Gaskin get his normal workload? If Gaskin plays and Ahmed is out, then I'm firing up Gaskin as a high-end running back too.
Yeah, that's the thing. What about if it's the reverse? Are you doing the same thing? If Gaskin still is not ready to suit up and it's Ahmed instead?
If that's the case, I'll probably play Ahmed as a low-end running back too. I don't know if I'd move him all the way up to a high-end running back too, but this is a fantastic matchup.
Yeah, this is just such a annoying game to sort of analyze, but yeah, this is it, and this is why, by the way, this is a shameless plug for us. This is why we do our start sit chats essentially on Sunday morning. I do mine on Instagram from the Fantasy Pros account from 10 a.m. to 11. Tags does his on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasypros from 11 to 12, and then Yates takes over, takes it on home from noon to 1. So we'll know at that point who's active. So I may not, but Yates certainly will. So we'll be able to talk about it then. Let's go to the Bengals here. Are you starting anyone on the Bengals? I think that's probably the best way I could put it.
Right. T. Higgins in that same territory of Marvin Jones. Otherwise, that's it. And you're just hoping that he finds the end zone. Boyd, I'm not going near him. I'm honestly not. As a flex play because of the wide receiver position this week, but I really do not want to play him with Brandon Allen. You're looking at the Vegas implied point totals here. This is crazy. The Dolphins are 11.5-point favorites, and we don't even know who their quarterback's going to be. Right. They're still normally if that's the case, you just don't see a spread. You just have it hasn't been set. It doesn't matter. They still have it at 11.5 points. So, it's just crazy. And that Bengals have 15.5 implied points from Vegas. It's just not great.
And how about Gio then?
No,
this might be Gio's last.
I'm done with Gio.
You're just done with it? You're done with it completely?
Yeah, I'm completely done.
Would you start Latavius Murray or Gio?
I would start Latavius Murray in that situation.
James White or Gio against the Chargers?
Gross.
Yes, you're in gross territory
I
now.
would play Gio. I'm not betting on James White finding the end zone twice as a runner and seeing only
one
target.
Craziest. That was the craziest, man. Yeah, if you told me James White was going to have one target and scored 2 touchdowns, I would have slapped you silly. Okay, Gio, for me, he's 29th at running back. He is a guy who I feel I don't know. I could see a scenario where I'd start him when I really need. We're talking about, as you know, this week we've been talking about starting guys like Frank Gore. So we're going to probably talk about starting Gio Bernard. But again, he's 29th for me. I am not in any way looking to start him, but I don't know. That running back is ugly right now, so we'll have to see. All right, before we hit on our next game, I talk about food a lot on this podcast and in my spare time and watching movies, which bothers a lot of people. I didn't have a very refined palate when I was a kid, so now I do. I love food. I know what you guys are thinking, especially if you're watching on our YouTube channel. How in the world do I maintain my perfect physique when I eat as much as I do? That's a story for another time, guys. But one of my favorite things is steak. Same thing with my wife. Our first date was actually at a steakhouse. When I got the job offer that moved us to New Hampshire, we talked about it over a steak dinner at a steakhouse for our 10-year anniversary. We went to New York. We saw a Broadway show, went to a steakhouse. And when we talked through whether or not I should come work for Fantasy Pros full time, we did it at a steakhouse. We love steak, both of us. For obvious reasons, we aren't going out to many steak dinners these days, but we still are eating delicious steak while talking over major life decisions because we get Omaha Steaks delivered right to our doorstep. We have been doing it for years. If you've heard me talk about it before, ever since my mother sent us a big package of Omaha Steaks when we had little kids and we barely had time to eat, let alone get to the grocery store. So we loved it. Now every so often my doorbell rings. Out on the porch is a big cooler filled with dry ice and perfectly aged 100% American grain finished steaks. I make sure we order some burgers so that the kids can eat it too. No more crowded grocery stores. No more worrying if the meat you get is going to be quality, delicious, quality steak delivered right to our door. Holidays are coming up. My mother, without a doubt, is going to send us a big thing of Omaha Steaks. I am going to send myself a big thing of Omaha Steaks. The Deluxe Grillers Assortment. It contains an awesome variety of entrees, sides, desserts. And if you go to omahasteaks.com, type in the code FantasyPros in the search bar, you get 4 free burgers and a free digital meat thermometer. You do not have to believe me. You can try it yourself because it's backed by their unconditional 100% money back guarantee. Deliver the perfect gift or send yourself something special. Get Omaha Steaks delivered right to your doorsteps. Go to omahasteaks.com, type in Fantasy Pros in the search bar, and shop the best gourmet gifts of the season. Again, that's omahasteaks.com. Type in Fantasy Pros in the search bar, omahasteaks.com. Fantasy Pros in the search bar. All right, Jaguars at Vikings. Mike Glennon is starting in this game. You are starting James Robinson, of course. We don't know who's suiting up here for the Jaguars. DJ Chark and Chris Conley have returned to practice this week, both limited basis on Wednesday and Thursday. So we don't know if they do suit up. If they don't suit up, are you starting any Jaguars wide receiver?
This was another one of the games where I went to go through my projections. I was like, what the heck do I do? Because you have two of these top options that are questionable. I would be surprised at this point if DJ Chark plays, but if he does, firing him up as a low-end wide receiver too, just based on the matchup. You got to plug in DJ Chark. Otherwise, I'd prefer to stay away.
Yeah, that's exactly how I have it right now. I have Chark a little lower right now. I have him 35th, so he's still in that range. I have a league, Yates, where I roster like every Jaguars wide receiver, and I'm just like, I just need one. Just give me one that's active. It'll probably be the wrong one. It'll probably be like Colin Johnson or something like that. But either way, I just want one active, and I'm going to throw him out there because that's where we are. Yeah, it is a good matchup, and Mike Glennon looked... I threw the ball. I mean, he completed passes. He looked better than I thought.
What analysis there? He threw the ball.
I wasn't sure that was going to happen when they played the Browns. Okay, but it was funny because when we talked about it with tags, it was always like, I mean, it's Mike Glennon. I can't feel comfortable with James. I was like, how bad can the quarterback play be that you're suddenly like, oh, I've got to move off any Jaguars? Like, whatever, get somebody out there. I agree. Chark, though, is the only guy who realistically I'd feel comfortable, and I use that term loosely, starting in this one. For the Vikings, this is kind of a start your Vikings, right? I mean, Cousins, both receivers, Dalvin Cook, of course, and Kyle Rudolph, if Irv Smith is out. You start them all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I mean, you're looking at the Vegas implied point totals here. Vikings are 10.5 point favorites in this one, which at the beginning of the season, I didn't think that was something that we would ever say. So Vikings 10.5 point favorites. They have an implied point total of 30. This is just ridiculous. So Dalvin Cook, number one option, no matter if he's not 100%. And then Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, both top 12 options for me. Kyle Rudolph, if Irv Smith is out, I think you got to look at him as in this matchup again as a streaming option. I've got him at 13, or I'm sorry, I got him at 12 above Austin Hooper.
Yeah, and we talked about Cousins in this one. He's basically a borderline top 12 option, right?
Yeah, I've got Cousins inside my top 12. I've got him at 11, 10.
Yep. Okay.
10.
Yeah. I've got him 13th, but again, Fitzpatrick is ahead of him, who I'm assuming starts. If it's Tua, he'll drop below, and it's all very close right in that range. But yeah, you can get away with pretty much starting anybody on the Vikings, and that's where we are. Raiders at the Jets. Are you going back to the well on Derek Carr, a guy who most people in the fantasy community, myself included, was like, yeah, start this guy, no problem in this one. Are you starting him in this one?
Man, I want to. But it's the trust factor, right? Like, this is where we can look at it from all analysis and we can say, like, yeah, this is a game that you start Derek Carr. But based on what he did to us last week, and again, I keep bringing it up, in such a crucial week, I've got Derek Carr at 15. I can't trust him. I want to. I can't trust him.
So can I, very quickly, I don't want to digress because we've got to move quickly, but I do want to ask you, Yates, this is a critical week, right? It's week 13. For the most part, people are fighting to get in. Does that impact your actual decisions? Do you think it should for fantasy managers, in that they can be looking at it and be like, well, if this was week 7, I might be like, all right, I'll take my chance on Derek Carr. It's a great matchup. I think he's going to do fine. But it's like, oh, God, this is week 13. I've got to win. I can't bring myself to make this decision in week 13 versus like week 7.
Right. It all depends on what the situation is. Like if you have to win this week to get into the playoffs, then that's a situation where I might look at someone who's a little bit safer than Derek Carr, who doesn't bring as much volatility. But yeah, in week 7, if this was the same situation, like he was coming off that game against Atlanta in week 6, for example, week 7, and he's going up against the Jets, that'd be something where it'd be like, yeah, you know what, I can take the shot on him because there's still a lot of football left to be played. But in this situation where I have to win to make the playoffs, that becomes a little bit more difficult of a decision.
All right. Of course, you're starting Darren Waller. We have no clarity as we record this on Josh Jacobs. He has not practiced either day this week. He is a tough dude. If Jacobs plays, are you starting Jacobs? If Jacobs doesn't play, are you starting Devontae Booker?
I don't think Jacobs is going to play in this game. I think that
I kind of hope he doesn't.
Yeah, same here, because I don't want to have to make that decision.
Yep.
And I would love to fire up Devontae Booker.
Yeah. So where would Booker rank? You know, I don't know if you have it ranked that way yet, but where would he rank?
I do. So I've got Devontae Booker at 16 right now.
Yep.
And then I've got him above Ezekiel Elliott. I've got him above Kareem Hunt. And then Jacobs, if he plays, it all depends on if he practices today. If he practices today in at least a limited fashion, then I'll be like, okay, I can feel comfortable putting him in at, it's kind of in that same range of like 18, 19, 20. That'll probably be where he ends up. But if he doesn't practice today, I don't think he plays.
Yeah, I think it would just be better because if he plays, it's probably going to be some sort of split, and I'm not going to feel great about starting either one of them, but I'm probably going to feel compelled to start Jacobs. I really don't want to have to do that. But again, we'll see. You'll probably know by the time you listen to this whether or not he practiced. He could be declared out. He could be declared a full go. We'll have to see. How about the wide receivers here? Nelson Aguilar also has missed practice this entire week with an ankle injury that I was unaware that he had. He had kind of the weird thing where Hunter Renfrow was your leading receiver last week. You had Aguilar getting involved as well. So how do you think you get Henry Ruggs finally got involved? So, I mean, you can beat the Jets. You can beat them deep through the air. So how do you feel about any of these wide receivers if they're all a go?
If they're all a go, they're kind of in the same range of like flex play at best. I wrote this game up earlier this week and said like if Aguilar plays, he's a high-end flex play. If Renfrow plays, he's a high-end flex play. Ruggs is kind of a low-end flex play, a boom bust option, in my opinion, in this matchup that could absolutely go off. But these guys, you can get away with starting them, but I would prefer to not. But, I mean, if Aguilar's out, then that provides a little bit more clarity because Bryan Edwards isn't going to step in and soak up targets. So I think you could roll both these guys, Renfrow and Ruggs, into your lineup as low-end wide receiver threes, high-end flex plays.
If they all do play, who is your favorite?
Aguilar, but it depends on if he practices today.
Yeah, assuming he practices, assuming he's a go.
Yeah, Aguilar, then it would be Aguilar. Yep.
Right, and right now I have him ranked 37th. So assuming that he plays, assuming that there's no injury designation in the end, I'm 37th. Guy who I'd probably start. I am starting him in the league if he does go, but I don't feel all that confident about it, which is basically the name of the game at wide receiver at this point. For the Jets, we talked about them a lot on Wednesday, so we're kind of starting Gore as a borderline almost RB2 in this one, or what? Yeah,
he's in that range. I was going to ask you when we were talking about Kareem Hunt, like, would you legitimately be looking at Kareem Hunt or Frank Gore this week?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question because they're in the same range. I do have Hunt ranked higher, and this might come back to it's week 13. Who am I really willing to roll the dice with at this point? I do have Hunt, though, in my projections, but I have Hunt at 22 and Gore at 26. That's not a very big difference for me in my projections. And again, I'll do a big sweep. But for right now, I have Hunt. But yeah, they're in that range. You can go away with Gore because he will get high teens, low 20s touches, and he's kind of game script proof in this because they just keep giving him the ball no matter what. So yeah, he's a guy you can get away with. Perhaps not very much upside. So if you want to let that factor in, you certainly can. But if you need safe points, he's going to be there. How about the Jets wide receivers? Are you starting any of them? And if so, which one is your favorite?
All of them are in that same kind of range as the Vegas wide receivers. They're flex plays for me. I mean, Brashad Perryman has actually been performing extremely well. Denzel Mims has actually been performing extremely well here recently. He's bringing a safe floor each week. So Crowder's the one who we said for the longest time this season, like Crowder's the one that you should be looking at. That's not the case anymore. I think that all these guys are flex plays at best for me. They're going to end up outside my top 36 wide receivers, but they all do provide some upside.
This is like, for me, it's like the Steelers wide receivers, but 2 levels down. Like, it's
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'll start them all.
It might even be 3 or 4 levels down. Let's be honest.
8 levels down,
Yeah.
but still, whatever. Yes, you know what I mean. Like the Steelers all basically fall in that solid, high-end, probably wide receiver 2 range, and you're just like, I don't really know which one, but 2 of them are probably going to be startable, and fine in this one, so I'll throw them out there. That's kind of how the Jets are, but in the flex range, sort of, for me at wide receiver, where I don't have great confidence in which one is going to do better. But given the fact that Darnold was finally willing to push the ball down the field a little bit, as perhaps he tries to audition for future roles maybe, and showing that he can push the ball a little bit, and he's willing to take those shots to either Mims or Perriman, I feel a little more confident in starting these guys. Again, just as flex plays at this point. But yeah, you just kind of throw them out there, and any 3 of them you might be able to get away with. Colts at the Texans. Which Colts running back, if any, are you looking to start this week?
Jonathan Taylor.
Where do you have him ranked exactly?
I have Jonathan Taylor. I mean, I had him ranked pretty aggressively on our start-sit show. That hasn't changed much for me. I've got him at 13 right now.
Where do you have Hines?
I have Hines right now at 21, so I do think that you can still get away with Hines, but I am still waiting to see, like, okay, does Wilkins actually play in this one? Like, I'm waiting for that clarity. If Wilkins does suit up, I'll probably bump down Hines quite a bit.
Yeah, so I do think that I think he's practiced fully. Although he's on the injury report, I think Wilkins has practiced fully this week. So I do think he's going to play. I have Hines right now, slightly the highest. I just have trepidation with Taylor. I'm still starting him where I roster him, and that is many, many places. I'm still starting him, but I have him 25th right now. I am assuming Wilkins plays, by the way, in this one. So I'm a little worried about it. But again, I do think that, rationally speaking, this should be the game for him. He, for the 2 reasons that he was very good against Green Bay when he played, and then you saw how it looked when he's not there. It's just Wilkins and Hines. Like, we know this. Wilkins and Hines are not their best bet to make this happen. For the most part, though, right now, I do have Hines ranked highest because he at least offers the safest floor. So for the receivers here, there's no Roby anymore because he, along with Will Fuller, gone here with the PED suspensions. Do you want to start Michael Pittman? Do you want to start your buddy, T.Y. Hilton? How are you feeling about the receivers?
I've got Pittman at 26 this week, man. Again, it's more so to do with the options behind him, but I really like Pittman this week. 9 targets last week. You can't get away from plugging him into your starting lineup. T.Y. Hilton is in the flex consideration for me. Again, it's more so just to do because we have, with the fact that we have 6 wide receivers that would normally be in our starting lineups out this week with Carolina and Tampa Bay. So I've got Hilton at 40. He's someone that you can absolutely get away with starting.
Yeah, so I'm right there with you on Pittman. I have him at 28. I have Hilton right now at 50th. He's going to move up.
Oh,
he's
no.
Gonna move up.
I'm the high one on Hilton.
We have switched roles, my good friend.
No.
That's exactly what we're doing. Yes, exactly. Wherever you have him, I'm going to message you at like 12:30 on Sunday morning and say, where do you have Hilton?
I'm dropping Hilton to 52 right now just to make sure that...
Well, I'm moving him down to 53. No, we'll see. I think Hilton is going to move up when I rerun the projections on Saturday night. But yeah, it's just... I'm not willing to trust it yet at this point. Any Colts tight end that you want to roll with here?
Trey Burton. You can get away with starting him. He's kind of in that same range of Austin Hooper, Kyle Rudolph. He's a streaming tight end.
I'm a little lower, but yeah, he is somebody who, if you're in a pinch, can get away with. Are you starting? I can't believe I have to ask this week 13. Are you going to stream Phillip Rivers in this one, assuming that he's a go after the toe injury?
So he's like the last in my quarterback rankings of like the guys who I consider streaming options. So I do think that you can get away with starting Phillip Rivers. He's actually been performing really well for fantasy here recently. But the issue and concern here, and why I have Jonathan Taylor ranked a little bit higher, is that I expect the Colts to just run the ball down the Texans' throat. And they should have success with it. So I just don't think that leaves a ton left over here for Phillip Rivers, as far as him reaching the levels to be able to finish within the top 12 with some of the other options. Like Kirk Cousins, I expect to have a huge game. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I expect to have a big game if he's the starter. So there are some other options that I would go with above Phillip Rivers, but you can get away with starting him.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers or Mitchell Trubisky?
I would go Trubisky.
As would I. All right. So that's where we are. And I'm sure they're both, they're both widely available. So if you are going to go ahead and stream one, then I would go ahead and do it with Trubisky. For Houston, I mean, even despite the lack of Will Fuller, you're still starting Deshaun Watson in this one?
Yeah, I think that you still plug him into your lineup. I've got him at 7 right now. It's a tough decision right now between Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson. I think I would still go Watson. But I don't think that Watson has a huge ceiling in this one, right? Like, I don't think that he has enormous upside, but I don't think that he's going to hurt your lineup heading into, a crucial week of the fantasy season.
I've still got him at 5. He might end up between 5 and 7, but yeah, he's a guy who I'm starting. And you're certainly starting Brandon Cooks, right?
Yeah. I don't think that, again, kind of with the matchup, I don't think that he has a huge ceiling here, but I've got Brandon Cooks at 18, so you plug him into your lineup.
Yeah, I've got him even higher at 13 right now because, there's no way I'm getting away from him at this point, given that he's really the only option. We don't know about if David Johnson, he's been activated, but that he given the 21-day window. There's been positive reports. He will probably know whether or not he's going to play by the time you listen to this. If David Johnson plays, do you want to start him? If he doesn't play, do you want to start Duke? I will say that as we were recording this, it came off that DeForest Buckner is off the COVID list.
Yep.
He is going to play in this matchup, so that does certainly impact their run defense. So how do you feel here about either running back?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I'm glad that you did with DeForest Buckner. That changes things. I would personally try to just avoid this backfield if I can.
Yeah, I would as well. Again, I do think that they are going to be more involved in the passing game right now. I know we've been waiting for that forever, but at this point, they really don't have any other options. How about Akins here? I mean, the Colts don't allow a ton of points to tight ends, but again, he could have had 2 touchdowns last week, and he's kind of one of the only guys standing.
Akins is, I mentioned that range, right, as far as the guys within my quarterback rankings that I consider streaming options. He's just outside of that in my tight end rankings, so again, based on the tight end position, the tight end 25 in my rankings might end up as a tight end 5 when the week's all done, right? Just because it's so gross.
Right.
But I think Akins, if you are absolutely desperate, you can get away with starting him. But I do think that you're going to see kind of a committee here with Darren Fells. He should be more involved too. Akins, and it's a very, very tough matchup. If this was a better matchup for opposing tight ends, I would be a little bit more willing to look Akins' way, but he's just outside of the streaming conversation for me.
Anybody else on the Texans? I mean, QT or anything like that?
No, not this week. QT is someone that I'm keeping an eye on, but no, not this week.
Start Rams at Cardinals. Are you starting any Rams running back? And regardless, if you have to start one, which one is it?
I would prefer not to start any of them. If I'm forced into starting one of them, I will start Cam Akers because he has the ability to break away a long run. But man, this is a gross backfield. I don't want to rely on it.
Yeah, this is let's do the Steelers. Here's what we've got. This is take the Steelers wide receivers, then you've got the Jets wide receivers, then you've got the Rams running backs, which is I don't really know which one is going to be good. I rank them all like within 5 spots of each other because I just don't know, but I do know I don't want to start any of them. So stay away. I don't mind rostering Cam Akers, but for now, I'm definitely not starting them. You're starting both Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, right? You're not worried about it?
Yeah, Robert Woods is higher in my rankings. I'm more
Me too.
27 targets over the past 2 weeks. Like he's now become what we thought he was going to be the entire offseason. I mean, for as much as Tags and I were talking up Calvin Ridley in the offseason, we were talking up Robert Woods just as much.
Yes.
And it was because of this, right? We finally got to the point where the Rams are throwing the ball quite a bit, and it's going Robert Woods' way. So, yeah, I think Woods is the one who's he's at 12 in my rankings right now. Cooper Kupp is going to be a little bit further down. He's been actually pretty inconsistent this season. So, again, you still start him, but it would be a tough decision for me between Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, I get that. I have Cooks higher than Kupp. Kupp's 20th in my rankings right now.
Yeah, it's probably where he'll end up. Yeah.
And Woods is 9th. I mean, I think this is, Woods has done well against Arizona in the past. Peterson doesn't really seem to have much of an impact on him. So I agree. You could get away from Kupp this week. At 20th wide receiver, you're almost certainly starting him. But he is a guy who I would be willing to get away from if I absolutely had to. How about Goff here? Are we not streaming Goff?
Nope.
Okay. For the Cardinals, again, Murray, I think, was off the injury report yesterday, so we hope that his shoulder is fully healed. We don't really know, but regardless, as we said, we're still starting Kyler Murray. Like, you're always starting Kyler Murray, unless he's unable to throw.
Yeah.
And you like Drake? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, based on his upside and what he presents, you have to continue to plug Kyler Murray into your lineup, and you're just hoping that his shoulder is back to full strength.
Yeah, right now I have him 6th. Like, that's as low as I can go for me right now with Murray, but it's still a must start. And you like Drake this, I mean, not like is a relative term, but you're starting him no questions asked, right?
Yep. Yeah, based on the running back position, I've got Kenny Drake up in, I've got him at 14 or 15 in my running back rankings right now.
I've got him 18, so we're right there. And Hopkins has obviously been a little bit of a disappointment lately, but you're still starting him, right, without question?
Yeah, I think that you still have to start him. He's a low-end wide receiver 1 in my rankings this week, so I think that I'm a little bit less optimistic than I have been, especially if he's going to draw coverage from Jalen Ramsey. He's had some pretty tough corner matchups here recently, so but yeah, you still start DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, I've got him 11th. Again, we're sort of like on the low end of where I like to rank the Cardinals players here. Are you starting anybody else like Christian Kirk or anything like that?
Kirk, it all depends on Murray's shoulder, right? So I think with Kirk, he's someone that I consider as a flex play because he does present some upside. If Murray's shoulder is back to full strength and he's able to push the ball deep downfield, I think that Kirk can have a pretty good game. But the matchup here against the Rams is also pretty scary, right? Where I'm adjusting my expectations for Kirk. So he's a high-end flex play for me. He's around wide receiver 36 in my rankings. I think that you can still start him, but he does come with a pretty wide range of outcomes.
Would you rather start Christian Kirk or the Jets wide receivers?
I would rather start Christian Kirk.
Yeah, I've got the Jets wide receivers all ranked ahead of Kirk. That's where I'm at with him. He falls just below them, sort of in the you can get away with starting him. He still falls into that like low-end flex play, but I would really take my chances on the other guys. Giants at Seahawks. Let's just assume it's Colt McCoy here. I know Daniel Jones is going to try to suit up, but let's assume it's Colt McCoy. Starting Wayne Gallman?
Do we have clarity on Devontae Freeman yet?
Actually, I didn't even. This is my bad. I didn't even know. Is he eligible?
I think he's eligible to return this week.
Well, I haven't heard anything on him, so
I haven't either.
My guess is he's not. Let's assume he's not playing.
Yeah, he's eligible to return, but I don't think he's practiced this week. If he doesn't play, then yes, you can start Wayne Gallman as a low-end running back too. I don't think that he's someone that you can really look at confidently in this matchup. The Seahawks have actually been pretty tough against opposing running backs, so he gets a downgrade, but he's been playing extremely well.
Even in the tough matchups, man. I mean, last week was the easy matchup, but before that, he was just succeeding nonstop in tough matchups. So, yeah, it's kind of something where I'm like, it's basically every time I rank Wayne Gallman, I'm not expecting a good game, but he's probably going to have a good game. How about Evan Ingram? He's been seeing the targets he's been producing lately. Is he at the point where you just roll him out there regardless of the matchup?
Yeah, I think at this point, you just continue to plug in Evan Ingram. Even with the quarterback change, I just think that you still plug in Evan Ingram.
I agree. I have him 8th. Start any Giants wide receiver with Colt McCoy.
Sterling Shepard, you can roll in as a low upside, low end wide receiver 3. I just don't think that he's going to present, much of a ceiling here. Darius Slayton, after what we saw last week, after Colt McCoy, I'm not looking this way.
Yep, that's exactly how I have it ranked. For the Seahawks, of course, you're starting DK Metcalf. Where do you have Tyler Lockett ranked this week? I mean, this is a guy I get a lot of questions on because he's basically been a dud for every game except for, here's a 200-yard game going on. So where do you have him ranked?
I have him at 18. So I still think that he's someone that you have to start just because of his, the potential that he brings. I said this to on one of the live streams or podcasts or whatever we do, whatever. I said that, the worst feeling in the world would be to bench Tyler Lockett and then have him go off for 40 points on your bench, right? Yep. Like that would just be the worst thing in the world. So I think you gotta continue to plug him into your lineup, but he's not a safe thing by any means.
I know. I've got him 14th because that's exactly what it is. It's like this is a guy who I will deal with probably, maybe getting nothing from him in my starting lineup than watching the explosion on my bench at this point. He's just still a guy. Again, there just aren't that many reliable wide receivers, generally speaking, anyway, so I still am throwing him out there. We talked a little bit about Chris Carson, how you're starting Chris Carson, but, you have a little hesitation with it, right?
Yeah, if Carlos Hyde does miss this game, then obviously that boosts Chris Carson up into a top 12 running back for me. It's more so to do with just, what does this backfield look like if both Hyde and Carson are healthy?
I'm with you. And you mentioned on the start to show you're a little down on Wilson this week.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned just based on what we've seen from him recently. Is it based on the running game not performing well? Is he trying to do too much? But this offense doesn't look the same as it has previously. So I still think that you start Wilson, of course, but yet ECR had him up at 2 earlier on in the week. I was not behind. I couldn't get behind that.
Yeah. Tags and I still have him at 2, so deal with that, man. I get it. I completely get it. It's sort of a little bit like the Lockett. They have morphed back into old school Seahawks where they like to run the ball, but it's still Russell Wilson. He can attempt 21 pass attempts, and I deal with it. But he'll end up at 2, maybe 3 for me because, that's just where I'm going. For the Eagles at the Packers, this has to be the huge spot for Miles Sanders, right? Has to be.
You would think so. We've seen Boston Scott's snap percentage sneak up here the past few weeks, and Miles Sanders' snap percentage, is actually dropped down. So, I mean, this is super concerning. And this offense, too, like the way that it's looked recently, gross. So, I just don't have any sort of confidence in the Philadelphia Eagles offense to make the right decision, which is just feed Miles Sanders the ball. Now, with that being said, you still start Miles Sanders, but
right, that's where I was going. I was like, okay, all the negatives are out of the way.
Right, you still start him because this is the matchup where, oh my goodness, you start the opposing running backs. But as far as I use this phrase all the time, but wide range of outcomes, it really does apply here to Miles Sanders.
So what's the number? Give me a number that you've got Sanders at.
I've got Sanders at 14.
Okay, I've got him at 11. So, yeah, we're right there, and this is sort of this is our classic Dan and Kyle sort of like, man, this guy is gross. I have no confidence in him, and if you don't start him, you're insane. That's basically where it is.
Would you rather start Miles Sanders or J.K. Dobbins this week up against Dallas?
I've got Sanders ahead.
Okay.
I'm starting Sanders this week. I mean, look, I get that applying the rational coaching sort of mantra
right.
doesn't make much sense, specifically if you have watched a single Eagles game this whole year. And when you watch that, we were joking about it, you watch that Eagles game against Seahawks and you're like, what? Why are you doing this? Why are you coming out and throwing nonstop? Wentz is broken. You're not going to fix Wentz right now by doing this. Run the ball even in the tough matchup. And they just didn't. I think that's the wake-up call. Against the Packers, you just saw what Dave Montgomery did to them.
Yeah.
They've got to try to keep the ball out of Rodgers' hands. I just think that this is going to be a game for Miles Sanders, and I am willing to roll with him. Dobbins right now is lower than he's going to end up. He's 21. I'm just waiting sort of to see everything. He's going to move up, but I'm still going to have Sanders ahead. I'm willing to roll with Sanders. But you must like Boston Scott. Then we talked about him briefly as a deep sleeper on Wednesday. You like him there, right?
I mean,
if you're in a real pinch.
Like is a relative term. Yeah, if you're in a pinch, then you can go with Boston Scott. He's seeing the targets out of the backfield. He's running quite a bit of routes here out of the backfield too. So I think you can look his way. He gets a bump up in full PPR leagues, but as a mid-range, low-end running back 3.
Yes, let's make that clear. This is not a guy who you're running to start, but he is sort of a sleeper. You're starting Dallas Goedert. If Zach Ertz starts, do you start him?
Goddard would probably fall to that same range of Austin Hooper, Kyle Rudolph. I just don't think that he has the safety if Zach Ertz plays. Now, if Zach Ertz plays, I'm not going anywhere near him.
Right.
So it just kind
of starting Dallas Goedert regardless, right?
Yeah, I think that but he loses some of his upside, obviously.
That's fair. Are you starting any Philadelphia wide receiver?
No, drop him from your rosters.
Yep, I agree with that. For the Packers, you're starting Aaron Rodgers, of course. You're starting Aaron Jones, of course. You're starting Devontae Adams, of course. Are you starting Robert Tonyan, of course? Is that where Robert Tonyan has gotten to?
Yeah, based on his performances here recently, I've got him at 7 right now.
Yeah, I've got him at 5. I agree. He's just, let's go. Let's start Robert Tonyan all day, every day. Anyone else? Jamaal Williams, Alan Lazard, anybody?
Williams is seeing a ton of work. But again, they were up big last week, so that could have played a factor in it. I think that Williams is kind of in that same range of Boston Scott for me, where he's like, yeah, you can get away with starting him, and you're just hoping that the Packers go up big in this one, and they start to lean on both their running backs. But yeah, outside of that, I'm not really holding out hope for Jamaal Williams turning into a top 24 running back.
How about Lazard here? I mean, he left early after getting kind of bruised, but he's seen targets in the limited time that he's been back. Are you willing to roll him out here?
Yeah. As I keep saying everyone's a flex play. At some point, you got to rank these guys.
I agree with you, though. This is the weird thing. You keep as a flex. I mean, he's 46th for me right now, Lazard. He could move up or down a couple of spots, but that's kind of where these guys fall into. It's like the 36 to 48 range, which is how I really define a flex. That's where he is.
Yeah, I've got him at 39 right now. So yeah, he's someone that you can definitely plug in, and he presents some upside if he finds the end zone.
Lazard or Christian Kirk?
Great question. I think I would go with Christian Kirk there, but I've got Kirk at 36 right now, and I've got Lazard at 39.
Patriots at Chargers. Who, if anyone, are you starting on the New England Patriots in this matchup?
Damian Harris is a high-end running back 3.
Yep.
Outside of
I'm
that,
at 28. That's exactly where I have him.
Outside
of
that,
are you starting new goal line back James White?
No. No, don't do that.
I have White at 31. Because, again, we're at the point where it's gross, and I don't know what's happening in this backfield. And I know he didn't get targets in that one. I'm not willing to completely write that off. If you're in an absolute pinch, I could get away with starting James White. My guess is he'll end up at 33, but still, I'd take my shot if I absolutely had to on James White. What about Newton?
No, I'm not looking Newton's way anymore. This past week I dropped Newton. Actually, waivers ran through and I haven't checked, so maybe I got him, maybe I didn't. I dropped Cam Newton and made a claim for Mitchell Trubisky. That's just where we're at.
Okay. I think I can't really argue too much with that. What about Jakobi Meyers?
So I've got Meyers at 28 in my wide receiver rankings, and I'm like, I do not feel great about that whatsoever. I want to find a way to move him down, but yet, I mean, he's jumped back to seeing the targets. There's just no consistency with this offense whatsoever. So I think if you're plugging in Jakobi Meyers as a high-end wide receiver 3, or, I mean, even into your starting lineup, I think you're playing with fire. Like, I don't want to lean on Cam Newton as a passer, right? I just don't want to.
And yet you are recommending that fans.
I know,
it's
recommending. So frustrating.
Here, I'm saying it because so am I. He's 27th for me, and I'm like, this can't be. I can't do this. Like, this is where my projections come out, but I've got to like dive deep into it because Jakobi Meyers is the 27th ranked wide receiver. Just feels terrible. Yeah. So for now, though, that's what we're saying. Yay, check our rankings. Go to our start sit shows on Sunday mornings because hopefully we'll have come to our senses. For the Chargers, you're starting Justin Herbert. You're starting Keenan Allen. You're starting Austin Eckler. What about Mike Williams in this one?
Yeah, so Mike Williams is at 40 for me. Probably going to draw coverage from Stephon Gilmore in this one on the outside. So that's concerning for Williams. He's going to have to come down with a big play to be able to finish within the top 36. So he's a boomer bust flex play for me.
How about Hunter Henry? Is he just in the circle of trust?
Oh, yeah, completely. At this point, I mean, Hunter Henry, you just plug him into your lineup. 10 targets last week. Like, yeah, you just continue to plug him into your lineup.
I completely agree. I have him at 4. Broncos and the Chiefs. Are you starting Melvin Gordon in this one? Does it matter if Phillip Lindsay is active?
It obviously, it matters if Phillip Lindsay is active. If Lindsay misses this game, then Gordon can be plugged into your lineup as a low-end running back 2, high-end running back 3. If Lindsay plays, I really don't want to go anywhere near him.
Yeah, right now I am ranking it as Lindsay is not going to play. He might. I think he returned to practice yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, if not, I think you can roll him out there as a borderline RB2 in this one. Who is your favorite Broncos wide receiver now that they have an actual person who plays quarterback throwing them the ball?
So, I mean, it would be Jerry Jeudy, but he's also been dealing with some injuries. So
he did play last week, though, so I assume that he's okay. And you can't take anything from the fact that he had no yards because, Noah Fant, 13 yards. That's all we got.
Limited in Thursday's practice. So, I mean, I expect him to play. Jeudy would be my favorite option here, but this is a tough matchup for opposing wide receivers and quarterbacks. So, this is just a match. Like, Jeudy is 1 spot above Allen Lazard and 2 spots above Mike Williams in my rankings right now.
Yeah, we're right there. I have Jeudy at 43, and I have Tim Patrick at 48, by the way, so I'll just put that out there. I know, people are kind of like, if there's an opportunity to forget about Tim Patrick, I think people will take it, but I do want to point out that he does just kind of produce every single time he's out there. It is a tough matchup, though, but they will be chasing points, so they like to garbage time it up all day long. How about Noah Fant? Is he a startable option for you this
He's week? A low-end tight end 1 for me. I think that he can get back to seeing some significant targets here, but it's not a guarantee. So I've got him right above Kyle Rudolph, Austin Hooper, Jordan Reed. I think that you can get away with starting Noah Fant.
Yep, I've got him at 12, which is the same as 9 and the same as 18. So enjoy yourself there. For the Chiefs, of course, as we say every week, you're starting Mahomes, you're starting Kelsey, you're starting Hill. Clyde Edwards-Helaire missed yesterday with an illness. Let's assume he's fine. He missed, I think, a practice the week before, 2 weeks before with an illness. If he starts, are you just still playing Clyde Edwards-Helaire? It's been a little bit of a disappointment here.
He's so frustrating to rank because you look at the Chiefs as big as they were up last week, you would assume, hey, at the end of the game, let's run the ball because that's what NFL teams do when they're trying to drain the clock. And you had 2 situations last week where it was like, okay, we're just going to, if we get the first down here, if we get the next 2 plays, the game's done. And they throw the ball both times, which is so frustrating, and it worked. So you can't really criticize them in any way. So it's like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you can start him and you can get the touchdown and he can finish as a top 12 option, but barely any targets out of the backfield. He's not getting that guaranteed volume when they're up big, which I expect him to be in this game, which Vegas expects him to be. So it's like I've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 19 right now, and I could see him finishing as the 36th running back. I could see him finishing as the 5th running back.
He's my least favorite player to rank.
Yep.
He really is, because it's really hard. It's so easy. If they decide that they want him to have a big game, he can have a monster game anytime he wants, right? And that's the thing. You're like, I don't know what to do right now. Right now he's 14, but I agree with you. I could see him moving down. I could see him moving down legitimately up to 10 spots by the time I'm done sort of reading the tea leaves. My guess, though, is, again, you said 17 is where you have him?
19.
19. My guess is 7th. That's where my prediction for where I end up with him is 17, but we'll see about that. Anybody else on the Chiefs? Do you want to start Sammy Watkins or anything like that?
I think you can look his way, but again, like, I'm looking at my wide receiver rankings, anyone from 36 to 55, I'm like, you can start any of these guys. They're all just kind of in that same range.
And Watkins for me falls at 51, so he'd be right there. Washington at Steelers, you're starting, regardless of the matchup, you're basically starting Gibson, you're starting McLaurin. Regardless of what goes on, are you starting anyone else on the Washington football team?
This is going to be a really interesting week to see what the Washington football team does with their backfield. They've been playing with the lead the past 2 weeks, which has that led to Antonio Gibson seeing his large workload and McKissick falling to the wayside, or in a game where Vegas has them as 8-point dogs. So it's like, okay, do we actually see J.D. McKissick start to be involved again as a pass catcher out of the backfield? Do we start to see them throwing the ball a little bit more? So it's interesting. I don't think you can necessarily trust McKissick. He's kind of in that same range of these like mid-range running back 3s for me. But with Gibson, he's a low-end running back 1. Outside of that, with McLaurin, no, you don't. Logan Thomas in that same kind of jumble as a tight end streamer option. Tough matchup here.
Yeah, I've got Thomas 20th this week. With McKissick, it is interesting because that really is the dividing line. If they're chasing points, he has been getting more involved. I don't know whether or not eventually it's just like, man, Antonio Gibson's really good.
Right.
Like, let's just, who cares if we're chasing points or not? So right now I have McKissick ranked as 37th, but I don't know. You're in an absolute pinch. You can probably get away with them because they will be chasing points. For the Steelers, let's do the usual thing. I mean, give me your wide receiver rankings. For all 3 Steelers wide receivers, and over-under, I'll put 9 from the best to the last. What's the difference? Go ahead.
Oh, Deontay Johnson at 16, Claypool at 20, Juju Smith-Schuster at 23.
Okay, excellent. We went under. That's almost identical to where I have him. That's how it goes. We don't know right now about James Conner. Of course, the game is not until, is this a Monday game, right? So we don't know about James.
Monday at 5. Yep.
It's one of the double. Oh man, 2 Mondays, a Tuesday. Let's get nuts. All right. So if Conner does go in this game, how do you feel about Conner? If Conner does not go in this game, how do you feel about Snell?
Honestly, kind of around the same range for either of them. I've got Snell right now at, where do I have him? At 16? 17. Mm-hmm. I've got Snell at 17 right now, and if because I'm assuming that Conner does not play in this game. So if Conner does suit up, though, then I've got Conner at 17.
Yeah, it's tough. I kind of, if you roster James Conner and you also roster Benny Snell, I would be hoping that Conner does not go in this game, because I would rather just have it, because, you don't know whether or not Conner is going to get the full load if he comes back or anything like that. And Snell produces. He does. He manages to get in there. Eric Ebron. Also kind of in the circle of trust now at this point?
Yeah, 11 targets last week. He had that bad drop in the red zone, which could have turned in.
They all had bad drops.
They all had. That was so bad.
If you played for the Steelers, you dropped passes last week.
Ebron could have had an even bigger game. I think he might have been able to turn that one into a score. So, with Ebron, circle of trust. You can't find 10, 11 targets. You can't find that at the tight end position. So if you're seeing that type of workload, you're in my starting lineup.
I'm definitely going to go back and find a tweet that Tags made in the beginning of the season when I basically said something like, I can list up to 19 guys that I could see finishing as a tight end 1 this year, and Eric Ebron was my last one, and he lambasted me and didn't like it. And now we're talking week 13, and if you roster Eric Ebron, you are starting him without question. I love it. He's my 10th tight end. I agree. How about Big Ben? Is he a streamable option for you this week?
He falls just outside the top 12, so he's still in the streaming conversation. With the receiving weapons here, you got to start him, but I'm not as excited as I would be in a better matchup.
Bills at 49ers. Of course, you're starting Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Are you starting any other Bills player in this matchup?
Not if I can help it. I mean, Cole Beasley is someone that you can look at. Gabriel Davis is a high upside flex play. He comes with a low floor, but I do think that he does come with a high ceiling here. So I think that if you're looking for that spark for your lineup in your flex spot, then Gabriel Davis is probably someone that you should be looking at. Cole Beasley can provide a safe floor for you, but he doesn't present much upside here. So yeah, I think you can look at the 2 wide receivers, but I don't think that you necessarily should be really excited to do so.
Yeah, I might start Beasley in this one. I feel like I could get away with it. How about the running back situation? I mean, they were both quasi-useful last week. So, I mean, are you willing to start either one? And if so, which one?
It's another situation where it's so frustrating because we see Devin Singletary combined for 16 total yards the previous 2 games. And then he comes out here and receives the majority of the carries and puts together a solid game. So it's really frustrating because even though Devin Singletary put up great efficiency metrics and was involved in the receiving game and everything like that, he still only finishes the RB22 on the week last week. So it's he presents absolutely no upside, and you're betting that he's going to receive the majority of the touches, which at this point I can't confidently do. So Devin Singletary, same range as these mid-range running back 3s. These other guys that I've talked about, I really don't want to roll out Devin Singletary. Zach Moss, I'm willing to look at in that same range because of his work around the goal line, but again, that's not a guarantee. So I would prefer to stay away if I can.
Yeah, I'm desperately trying not to start these guys. Is basically how I would put it. But I could see being in a pinch and needing to do it. But yeah, they're very, very low end, really desperation flexes for me. For the 49ers, Mostert, is back. So you're just rolling him out there. What, solid RB2?
Yeah, high end RB2.
Yeah, he's a good matchup here. And Deebo Samuel, I assume he's okay. I know he missed practice on Thursday with a hamstring, so we'll have to check on that. But Deebo and Brandon Ayuk is activated off the COVID-19 list. If they both play, are you starting both of them?
Yeah, I think you can. I think they kind of hurt each other's overall ceilings. But yeah, you still, again, we're talking about some of these other guys. Yeah, you look at Deebo Samuel as a solid high-end wide receiver 3 and Brandon Ayuk as a mid-range wide receiver 3.
Yep, I agree. I would start both of them as wide receiver 3s. I wouldn't be that worried. They're creative in how they use them. How about Jordan Reed in this one? He has been getting the targets, like we talked about, 6 targets in each of the last 2 games.
Yeah, you wonder if that comes down with Brandon Ayuk in the lineup, but yeah, this is a great matchup for opposing tight ends. So yeah, you plug in Jordan Reed in that same territory as a streaming tight end.
Yep, he's 14th for me, so you can certainly get away with him, which again means he could be 3-4 spots higher or lower. Last game, Cowboys or Ravens. So many unknowns in this game for the Ravens. I mean, I don't even, and the defense. So this is hard to analyze, but let's start. How about Zeke right now with what we know? Where are you ranking Zeke?
I've got Zeke at 20.
Yeah, I've got to move Zeke down. He came out way too high in my initial projections. I had him at 15. I've got to get him down. But yeah, I agree. He's still a guy you're probably going to start just because he'll get the volume enough to do it. How about Cowboys wide receivers here? Again, Jimmy Smith got injured in this game. We don't know whether or not, how that secondary is going to look. But how about the Cowboys wide receivers? We talked about them a little bit as fades on Wednesday's show.
Yeah, it's really difficult to analyze this game from when the game happened 2 days ago. So, I mean, Marcus Peters got injured in that game too. So you're wondering, okay, is he going to be fully healthy? I don't know. So, yeah, I think Amari Cooper, he's a low-end wide receiver too for me. You're still rolling him out there. CeeDee Lamb is a little bit further down in my rankings. He's kind of, if I had CeeDee Lamb and Mike Williams, that would be a really tough decision for me. And then Michael Gallup, look, he performed last week, but yet in this matchup, in such a crucial week, again, I mentioned it, this is a game that you don't want to roll out Michael Gallup and miss your fantasy playoffs because you took the shot on Michael Gallup.
There's no way. I'm not relying on Michael Gallup. I completely agree with you. But yeah, I'm a little more willing to start CeeDee Lamb probably in this matchup, just because I do think that they'll be creative in the way they get him involved here. And, I don't think they did enough in that Washington game, and I think they'll realize it. So, again, fallacy of rational coaching, but you never know. For the Ravens, let's just analyze it as if Lamar Jackson's going to start. He will, assuming that he is able to test negative, the period ends before the game, so he would be eligible to come back. Assume Lamar Jackson plays. Are you starting him in this matchup?
I have my concerns. If I had Ben Roethlisberger and Lamar Jackson, that would be a really tough decision. I think that in that instance, I might just play it safe and go with Ben Roethlisberger. Lamar Jackson comes with a very wide range of outcomes this week. Okay, what does he look like coming on? I mean, he tested positive. So it's kind of we've talked about Cam Newton. Okay, does he come back and is he the same from a health standpoint that he was going to. And let's not pretend that Lamar Jackson was a top-tier fantasy asset before he missed last week's game. So, yeah, this offense needs him. Looking at Robert Griffin III and Trace McSorley. But, I mean, I don't know if I want to trust him.
Yeah. I right now I have him ranked as 7th. I don't feel very comfortable with it. I don't feel comfortable ranking Jackson at all this year anyway. Right now I have him 7th, assuming that he comes back. Again, look, their backs are against the wall at this point. They've got to win. You know, and let's assume Mark Andrews, of course, is coming back too, because that makes a big difference. But yeah, I don't feel comfortable. It's very difficult to analyze. Right now he's 7th, but I could see moving him down to 10th. He's going to be in my top 12. If he plays, I'm probably starting him just because I think he offers so much upside with his legs. But yeah, you got to monitor it. J.K. Dobbins, you mentioned. I mean, he's obviously cleared. He didn't play on Wednesday, but he's good to go. So you're going to start him. Do you think they're just going to, hand the keys over to him like they did that last game that he played?
So that's the concern is, okay, do we actually see them lean back on J.K. Dobbins because it worked? He performed extremely well when he got the workload. So, okay, do we see that happen? And in a plus matchup, like this is just something that I'm willing to take the shot on J.K. Dobbins and hope that he gets the majority of the work, is able to prove that he can succeed in this matchup. So I've got J.K. Dobbins pretty high in my rankings. I'm willing to take the shot on him this week.
All right. And how about Hollywood Brown, who obviously had the very long catch at the end of the game, got people pretty excited, but I don't really think you can rely on that. How are you feeling about him this week?
That came from Trace McSorley, the third-string quarterback, and it was an underthrow. Like, there was something that Brown had to adjust. The corner wasn't looking and and was tracking Brown, and then Brown was able to adjust. It was bad. So, at this point, you can't rely on Marquise Brown. It's kind of the same situation as Michael Gallup. Excuse me. Like I'm not going down, plugging in Marquise Brown into my starting lineup in a crucial week.
I can't really argue with any of that. All right, that is going to do it for today's show. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks to our sponsor, Omaha Steaks. Go to omahasteaks.com. Type in Fantasy Pros in the search bar to shop the best gourmet gifts of the season. Have a great weekend, everybody. Don't forget to check out our start-sit shows on Instagram from 10 to 11, on youtube.com/fantasypros from 11 to 1. Tags and I will talk to you next on our Sunday night recap show. I'll talk to you then. Looking for useful content, fantasy-relevant information, and the data that's going to help your team win? Then go ahead and subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. And while you're at it, give us a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook @FantasyPros so you can dominate all your leagues.